Namaskar. Is history repeating itself? Is the crude oil price around the world being forced down to try and bankrupt Russia? Because in 1986, that's exactly what happened. I'm going to talk about all that stuff before we set the questions to Sridhar Chityala ji. Let's first welcome him. Sridhar ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you, sir?
Namaskar ji. Very happy to be here on talking on a topic which is very close to heart and very fascinating days ahead. And there's all kinds of what you call social media and other things floating around talking about, hey, is Russia going to offer a special sweet deal, just like, the sweet crude, which is the Russian black Urals, etc. So I think all of this has a contextual relevance within the parameters that you have been speaking of, which is namely, is history repeating itself? Usually, for sanctions and purchases, you try to set the cap higher, but very smart move by the Europeans around July 27th. They reset the cap to $47 from $60. Now, people will read it and say, oh my God, they should be punishing, so you should set the cap higher rather than lower. No, they set the cap at $47. So in other words, up to $47, if you buy from Russia, then you are not going to be penalized with any sanctions. So the European Union claims that they have put very stringent sanctions for the nations who are going to buy the oil. And this is where India comes in. Can you if you roll the clock back sometime, and we covered this in the last session, 1.7% of the global of Indian requirements of the crude was bought from Russia in 2020, FY 2020. Then you remember the Russian invasion, and then the $60 cap was set. Lo and behold, nobody realized that India is going to grab all of it or most of it from Russians. And from 2020 to 2025, the purchases went up to about 35% and roughly 2.1 million barrels per day. Now, as we speak, it's around 38% of the volume, import volume, is coming from Russia. And Modi is an extremely smart and clever businessman. He saved somewhere between, $9 to $11 billion over 3 years, 3 plus, because if you avoid the COVID, significant amount of savings that flow into the Indian government's balance sheet. And there was also a little price incentive of $3 to $5, which is, he included on what you call as the onshore coming to the refineries, the cost. So now everybody is saying at $47 is India going to take lion's share of it? And this is where the whole kind of trigger which is coming in, namely that is not just purely the purchase, but at $47, when they're supposed to bankrupt the economy, the cash is going to flow through into the Russian economy at that specific price. Now, whatever may be the irrational and erratic conditions of imposing sanctions on India for oil purchases from Russia, the fact is that I think India will make a selective judgment in buying at this enormously discounted cap, Sriji. When you take $60 to $47, about that is $13 down.
No, sir. That's not all. I was going to come with the magic of the math in just 1 second, because today the price is, I think, 65 or 70. Where is the price today?
The price today is $67.
$67, right? Okay. So, sir, if you want, finish your sentence, because I want to set the context back to 1986. What happened in 1986? Because that bankrupted USSR. So first finish your line, sir. Then I'll come back and set the context for the next question.
Okay, no, I think that I'll hand over the floor to you. I think India is in a very difficult situation. I mean, whether they buy or what they kind of negotiate, but they have said that, they'll continue because it's a strategic priority. as far as its national security and energy security is concerned. Also, it's very important. It's very important for people to understand that, there are refineries in India, for example, Reliance, that processes the Brent crude from United States. They don't do that much of the Russian Urals. Now you have Adani and other kind of national refineries which has the capacity to process the Russian Urals. Russian Urals is of different grade, whereas the West Texas is of higher grade. By the way, during the same period, in the current 6 months or 7 months or so, or in the last 8-9 months or so, the purchases from even United States has increased. It came down from about 6% to 4.3. Now it's close to 5.6. On a run rate, it's 225,000 barrels a day and growing. It's not that India stopped buying from United States. This is the very, very, very important data point, Sriji. The purchases of Russian Urals from India is being made in dirhams, not in rupee. Is being made in dirhams. So it's a very important data point.
Why?
Within the context of in dirhams, because it's the same issue that China faced. What can they do with so much of ruble in their balance sheet? They have to buy rubles in the balance sheet. So they're going to import. So where would they buy from? It's a very limited market. Remember, going back in time, we covered in DGI, Citibank, which used to be out of London, one of the important venues for the Russian bonds and so on, that was stopped. So Russia has a real challenge. And remember, Russia is also part of OPEC Plus, right? So they're using dirhams rather than this, rupee account that was perceived to be.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll come to the dirhams part in just one moment, but I want to set the stage because I promised our viewers how I arrived at the 40 to 65% off. Today's price is 67. Let's say that it's going to settle at somewhere around 66 or 65, so thereabouts, because it changes every day. And these are futures pricing next month and so on and so forth. Now, what is the new determination on July 27? $47 per barrel, right? And also remember, viewers, that India is not taking the 47 on 47. India is demanding a $5 off. So India is, you see, that's what I believe. That's what Sridhar Chityala ji believes. That's the reason for this, because we found that there were some dots that could be connected. We believe that India is going to get it at $42 a barrel. Now you do the math. From 67 to 42, that comes to close to 40%. So that is the kind of break you're getting. I want all of you to ask your member of parliament, I want that 40% dividend on my price at the pump too. I want to pay less for the price at the pump. But you have to promise not to buy new cars. There are no roads to drive the new cars. That's a new problem coming up in India. But let me get back to what happened in 1986. The Ural oil was forced to sell at below $10 a barrel because there was a glut in the market. How did the glut come about? The United States went and sweet talked to OPEC, and together everybody produced so much that the USSR practically got bankrupted because they were forced to sell in the open market price at less than $10 a barrel, $9.85. Sridharji, 1986 summer vacation, I'll never forget. I was a student at a rickety old car, and I was only paying 53 cents per gallon.
Well done.
At a student scholarship, was heaven. We drove all over the United States.
Well done, G. Well done. So amazing.
So now let's come to the fast forward to the front today. So at $47 or $42, India can take some of the heat of the tariffs that US might be sanctioning. So given that situation, Sridharji, what is going to be Trump's next move?
Well, I think it seems like there's a firm belief in the mind of the Americans, right? The firm in the Americans, the only man who can do some negotiation and bring about the end to the Russia-Ukraine war is Prime Minister Modi. So they're saying, you want some offsets, you want some benefits, we need some benefit. It costs United States almost $150 billion per year to fund this Ukraine war. Okay, forget the tariffs. It costs them $150 billion to fund the Ukraine war. They do not want to be funding. They do not want to be sending more equipment. They're much bigger issue to kind of grapple with. Even the extension of the 5% of the European GDP to spend in defense purchases is going to take 3, 4, 5 years to flow through into the system, etc. So I think they are preempting Modi ji to do the talking. And Modi ji is very smart. He's not going to open his mouth. He has had a conversation with Zelensky. Both have taken entrenched positions. So Trump has stated Putin has to be given some land and Zelensky has to be given a win situation, but he has to also cease, or he has to also kind of cede some part of the land. Now, it's not going to happen because Zelensky is emphatic in saying, hey, that I do not want, I have to go to parliament. I cannot kind of do any kind of arbitrary deals. Remember, just like everything else, these deals that are going on with Trump on tariffs, Zelensky struck a deal that he would, do the rare earths and so on. Now, what did Russia do? They went and occupied that land. So he has no ability to fulfill on his promise. He has nothing. So you are witnessing a cul-de-sac here in terms of a resolution. So something has to be struck between Modi, Putin, and Trump for a resolution and reset back to normalcy. In the meanwhile, they have given all the kind of benefits to China in terms of 90 days pause and this stretching from July to November. So everybody is questioning the situation with regard to as to why this is discretionary or discriminatory treatment against kind of India. Now, the only plausible explanation that we can give is, you can see India went from 1.7 to almost 35, now 38%. There's a fear because the price cap was reset to 47. Effectively, you can tell Saudis, Iraqis, and UAE, hey, I'm sorry, I'm getting a better kind of a deal here within the parameters of international sanctions, right? We buy within at that $47 kind of plus or minus, which is way less than $60, even at that price. There's a further discount that Modi is getting on this. So there is a fear that he could kind of swamp up. And all these ruble or dirhams is an incremental dollar to Putin is concerned. It's not going to choke him. Now, why did they keep $47? They are afraid Putin has equally the power to choke the oil markets. And if there is a choking of the oil markets by taking out the supply, it's a major crisis that the world is going to face in the present circumstances, Sriji.
Very well put, sir. So dirhams is the Saudi Arabian currency, I guess. And I think India may, right?
No, UAE.
Oh, UAE currency. So then does India have good reserves of dirhams?
It can buy with its dollars. Anything from dollars, dirhams, or Saudis, or any currency, anybody accepts, notwithstanding the de-dollarization theory.
Sir. Why go through another intermediate currency, sir? Why not pay Putin dollars?
Well, Putin dollars will be frozen. No, he's under sanctions. He'll be frozen. Trump is Trump is in a circus. So I think that he's really in a circus, and unfortunately he's carrying quite a few people with him. Yeah, Sriji, sorry.
So the challenge now for Trump is, the meeting is coming up in a couple of days' time. This has been, kind of doing the rounds. And I'm sure, somebody in the White House, or they're going to watch this video and they're going to say, wait a minute, now India is going to get it at $42. At $42, it's a pretty good dividend for India. It's a very good deal, as a matter of fact. If that be the case, even if Trump says tomorrow, I'm going to put 100% tariffs, India might just say, look, it's your call what you want to do, and not do anything about it. That's how I see it. Sir, what do you think Trump is going to do? Tariffs are not working. Clearly, India is going to do this. I would take this deal, sir, and I'll face tomorrow whatever happens. Right?
Shriji, you and I have been following this now for almost 8 to 10 years as to what the trajectory is. One of the reasons why everybody kept quiet during the first 4 years of Trump regime is nobody knows what he does next. Nobody.
Correct.
Okay. Nobody knows. So I think there's a very high level of unpredictability. And unfortunately, he's got himself into a no-win situation, especially as far as this Russia-Ukraine is concerned and Russia-India is concerned. Now, remember, there is a very famous Nobel laureate, Jeffrey Sachs from Columbia University, and you must all have seen his interviews or so.
I watch his videos.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Sachs has gone on record to say, India, here's my advice to you. Don't rely on United States. He didn't even say Trump. Don't rely on United States and don't rely on Trump. He is not going to do anything. He's not a strategist. He's not an economist. He's a transactional guy. So therefore, he's trying to do something good. So that may be good for United States in short term. We'll have to see long term. So as far as India is concerned, you stick to your plan and move forward without being reliant. That's one piece of advice. There are a couple of Nobel laureates from London who have said, hey, you can't afford lose a United States relationship. And so therefore see what you can do. By the way, we will cover this separately in another program. The tariff impact only impacts close to $46 billion of the Indian exports out of the 100 billion. Rest of it under reciprocal tariffs are exempted from tariffs, such as mobile phones, such as IT services, such as chemicals, such as pharma, etc. So they are all exempted. So India is sitting nicely as far as that aspect is concerned. They are modeled if it goes to 50%, the tariffs, the penalty, as a result of more oil being bought by India from the Russians at this kind of a price, then India has two tools available at its disposal. One is a monetary tool and one is a fiscal tool. You may see further rate reduction, at least two rate cuts by the RBI. And if you have seen the inflation numbers of India, is very, very favorable. So 2 rate cuts. And then you may see a fiscal stimulus to infuse the industry from the government. But this is besides whatever they can do with the other countries in terms of offsetting the impact of the tariffs. So they got a strategy. The question is which tool and which game Modi ji is going to play under the cul-de-sac situation that Trump has put himself in, Shriji.
Thank you so much, sir. So Trump could also end up taxing or putting tariffs on pharma and computer electronics and computer services and things of that nature. That is something that he could do. However, that's when the pushback is going to be really worse. Especially pharma, you cannot touch it. Sir, exactly. 95% of generic drugs in US are all made in India. I mean, my healthcare provider, I don't even have a choice, sir. The brand to generic is like a 60% discount. How can I not? It's difficult. At the end of the day, you have to, count your pennies. So very good, sir. Now let's take a few questions from our viewers, if you don't mind.
Sure, Ji.
First question from Srinivasan Iyengar. Sridhar Chityala ji, as Indian relationship is always complicated and topsy-turvy, don't you think India will have to navigate carefully with USA without compromising our national interest? Thank you.
Yes. India will not compromise. They made it very clear. They will not compromise the national interest, energy security, the farmer, protecting the farmer and agriculturists, protecting its dairy products. They made it very clear. They say we can give you access to the markets, but you have to deliver to the markets what India needs. You can't put conditions on and deliver what we don't need. That they made it, whether it is GMO or whether the milk dairy has animal fat, etc. It's not compromisable. I think India has made it very clear. My view is that the reason why he is playing smart, not negotiating with China, is he wants to see which way this happens, the Indian stuff happens. 40% of mobile phones in the month of July was imported from India. So you're not going to choke your market by having a double whammy with tariffs on China and with tariffs on India. He's trying to play one against the other. He's trying to see how the Indian negotiations go. I think my view is eventually Trump has to concede ground, and if he fears that Russia will continue to be funded and more oil will be purchased, then I don't know where he's heading. My feeling is India will be very reasonable. At 40%, that's a significant volume from single nation. I don't know whether India wants to put itself in that kind of a situation, Sriji.
All eggs in its one basket. Very true. Very true. Thank you, sir. Next question from Satya. What are your top 3 reforms recommended for India to move into position like China, where US will back off to apply tariffs?
Well, I think first and foremost, I've said this. China has played very, very clever and very, very smart on 3 important vectors. First and foremost, their currency. Their currency remained managed and manipulated by Central Bank of China or Bank of China. Number one. So they had stable currency for at least 3 decades. First. Second, they promised and delivered little. So effectively, they gave cheap prices to the world. People believed they will be getting market access. They didn't. So they built huge supply chain, huge supplies, and effectively they control the world market. Okay, in terms of the goods and services that they supply. You take any sector. I mean, it's very clear. They are there. So India has to kind of build stability and strength in 5, 6, 7 sectors, which helps India to move and migrate to a $10 trillion economy. No less than $10 trillion, which means India will be G3, 3 of the most powerful economies in the world, seat at the table and negotiation on its terms. I think the reforms that people are speaking about is basically creation of enterprises, transparency in business rules, allowing capital flows, some form of PPP partnership, as they have done in the last 5, 6 years in building, low consumer electronics, mobile, and pharmaceutical industries, etc. So these reforms in terms of energizing the industries, rare earths is going to be very important. EV is going to be very important. Growing to be one of top 3 automobile is going to be very important. So you need to create reforms where there is also tax benefits to these institutions and people can come in. Vietnam has pleaded for more access and more capital to flow in. Always Japan and Korea will kind of come in. So I think that's the type of reforms people are looking for. They're not looking for a Vostro account or a Nostro account. That's what latest RBI announced.
Thank you so much, sir. Very useful information. Viewers, that's all for today. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Sridharji and I will be talking about a slightly different topic in a couple of days' time. We'll let you know the topic. These are all very important data points that are going to, drive how the future of economies of these countries are going to move forward. Thanks once again, Sridharji. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Have a wonderful evening, Sriji.